Hi, this is Carl the Lazy Reseller, and I wanted to talk about shipping in Canada for eBay. And there's two aspects. One is using the letter post, and the other one is for parcels. And I just wanted to give some insight on how that works. So in Canada, I use letterpost for anything that will fit into the slot at Canada Post, because the costs are going to be for using letterpost, oversized letterpost is going to be about $2.19 to about $5, and usually it's really $2.19 to $3.60. And with letterpost, you don't have tracking, but I just find it's worth taking the chance in Canada because it doesn't take long for the difference between letterpost of about $3 or $4 compared to using parcel of 12, 13, $14 to turn into a significant amount of money, and honestly nothing has been lost yet. So in Canada we have something that the nickname is the slot of doom, and here I bought one. And what this allows you to do is just check your parcels before they send to make sure you send them to make sure they'll fit. And here's a poly mailer, and in this case I have a video game, and I'll just use regular stamps on this and put it through the slot, and no one's claimed they haven't found anything yet. Also, what you can do is you can buy boxes, so they come flat, and then you have to make them. And then if your item fits in here, I put the item there, and use a big flat envelope, and that will also fit in the slot of doom, and that will save you a lot of money. And because the costs are much lower, I think it's totally worth taking a chance on that, especially if the items are cheaper and you're willing to take that chance. And eBay actually doesn't require you to use tracking in Canada. So the more complicated one is sending parcels in Canada. And what you can do is use Shippo. And what Shippo allows you to do is use your Canada Post business account. And you don't need a business, and you should definitely sign up because the discounts are significant for having a Canada Post discount. And the more you spend in Canada Post over 365 days, the higher tier you will go to for getting even bigger discounts. It's a must. I think, I'm not quite sure what the first discount is, but it's significant, 20 or 30%. And the other aspect of, so what you do is you go to Canada Post and you set up your business account. Then you set up a Shippo account, and you attach that account to your Shippo account, and you use Shippo on eBay to print your shipping labels. And the nice thing about Shippo too is that it automatically takes the buyer's address and transfers it to Shippo. So what you do is you take when you sell something, you go on Shippo, and it'll have all your sales there, and from there you can actually create a label. And I highly recommend a laser printer because it'll save you so much money, especially a wireless one is great. And what it does is it prints your shipping label, and it's about this size, and you cut it in half. And I don't want to show them because there's addresses on here. This is the receipt. But what it does is it prints a shipping label, and then from Canada Post you order these packing slips, and these are free from Canada Post. And what you do is you put the slip on here, and there's a sticky back, and you put it on the parcel, and you can ship it. I would say it's a must if you're going to sell things on eBay. So the next aspect I want to go into is how the cost for shipping in Canada works, because it is quite complicated. And I'm going to show you this in the next step. So you're going to hear a lot of how expensive shipping is in Canada, and here is the reason why. You're going to find that the shipping costs for something like Smurf is almost the same shipping cost as something like a big board game. And the reasons for that is the way that Canada Post calculates shipping costs. If, like I showed in the other video, you can fit it to the slot of doom, you can use letterpost, oversized letterpost, but the Smurf won't fit, so you can't use it. So you have to use parcel. And the way it works in Canada is and I'm going to show you this in a chart, is the minimum. They take two things. They take either the weight of the item, including the material when you put it on the scale, or they take the volumetric equivalent, which is basically a way of taking the dimensions of your parcel, and it converts that into a weight, and then whichever's higher, the actual weight of the object or the volumetric equivalent is higher, that's what determines your costs for shipping. And in Canada, it's like it has a high base level of cost, like the minimum, like the Smurf, and then it doesn't really go up very much from there, which is why the difference in the two costs are not that different. And the minimum weight that they use is 750 grams. So if your parcel weighs 100 grams or 750 grams, the cost is the same. And that's frustrating, but it's just the way it is. And I'm going to show you now how you calculate that and why that's important. So for the example I'm going to use, I'm going to show you why when you do costs, the cost for this Smurf and this bubble envelope, which weighs 34 grams, is the same as, say, a box full of cassette tapes that weigh 706 grams, and the cost for the two is exactly the same. So on this page, we can do the estimates for the shipping, and I'll show you the two examples that I just talked about, the Smurf and the cassettes. So I'm going to take my own postal code, I'm going to send it to Saskatchewan, and we're going to put in the size. So for the bubble envelope, it's 24, 19, and 4, and the weight is 0.034 grams. I'm going to calculate that cost. This is without the discount, so just keep that in mind. And if you look, the regular cost, what we're going to talk about, is $15.58. Okay, so we're going to go back, and I'm going to show you what the cost for the tapes. So this box is 16 by 12 by 12 centimeters, and the weight, as we already figured out, is 0.706 kilograms, and calculate that cost, and it should be exactly the same. And it's $15.58. And that's what makes it really difficult here in Canada, and why often items that are small and light and cheap don't work very well for us to sell in Canada. And in fact, it's cheaper to send that to the United States. But the next thing I want to talk about here is just show you what you should be looking out for when you're doing your shipping. So I'm going to explain this table. And honestly, I just learned how this works fairly recently. It's scary, but it's because I think their explanation isn't very good. So I'm just going to talk about the regular parcel. Expedited is almost the same, and those are the two I use regularly. That's another good reason actually to have a business account, because often you can send things expedited for the same cost, and people love it when they get their items a lot faster than they think. But just stick with what we're talking about. As you'll see here on this chart, it has weights here. So it starts at anything up to 0.75 kilograms, and that's the minimum that I was talking about. And what these are here is different rates based on the location of where you are and where they are. And I'm not going to actually go into this because we have no control over this. you know. So what we do have control over is the weight, or actually here it says VE, which is the volume equivalent, 0.75. And what I'm going to tell, so if it's like 0.5, you're going to pay, if it's A1, which I never see it this cheap, but whatever, it's $10.13. And if it's 600 grams, it's $10.13. And it's not until you get over 1 kilogram that the price goes up. And if you see, it increases. And the good thing about knowing this is sometimes it's not worth the extra effort that you might think to cut down on weight. Often it's worth the time to maybe cut down on the volume, but not on the weight. Because if something weighs 1.1 kilogram, and you think, well, I can cut some packaging, right, and get it down below 1, then it might make sense. But if you have, say it's if your item weighs 1.4 kilograms, and you get down to 1.3, you're not actually going to save yourself any money. And as a lazy reseller, I try always to save myself some time. So the next thing I'm going to show you here is how to calculate the volume equivalent and why that matters. So this picture I just created just to show it. Like I said, you weigh the package, including, you know, all the everything that's in it and the box and everything. You come up with the weight, and then the volumetric equivalent rate is found using this calculation. So what you do is, and don't take the size of the box based on the bottom, it's often inaccurate. You want to actually measure it. So you take the length times the width times the height of the box, and then you divide either by 6,000 or 5,000 if you're going to use expedited. Honestly, I don't find it really makes that much of a difference despite the look of the numbers, but that is how you come up with the volumetric equivalent. So now I'm going to show you a box and show you what that means. So, as I just showed you with volumetric equivalents, really the minimum weight you're ever going to have is 750 grams. Anything 750 grams or less is the same cost, which is why it costs the same to ship this as it ships this. And what I want you to keep in mind is don't waste time if things aren't going to make a difference. So like if I was going to ship this Smurf, if I ship it, tape it, send it like that, or I fold it in half, put it like that, it's not going to make a difference. The cost is still going to be the same. And more importantly, with boxes, that's very good to keep in mind. And so what I do is, like, there's standard boxes I find which is good for shipping. One of my favorites is the 6x4x4. And what I've done actually is created master boxes for most of the boxes I use on a regular equivalent, on a regular basis. And what I actually written on the side here is, which you probably can't see, but I actually put the weight of the box, 54 grams, with the VE. And so I've already calculated the volumetric equivalent. And of course I use inches here just to confuse everyone, but centimeters, that's 16 by 12 by 12. And when I take that 16 times 12 times 12 and divide by 6,000, I get the volumetric equivalent of 0.352. And so I know that if I put something in this box and the box weighs less than 750 grams, I'm paying the minimum cost for shipping in Canada. Now, here's a bigger box, right? And see, that box only weighs 150 grams, and inches again, 12 by 6 by 6. And if you see, I actually wrote the volumetric equivalent is 1.45 kilograms, which means that even if this weighed with the item in it, let's say 300 grams, it doesn't matter. Because when you compare the weight of the box and everything of 300 grams and compare it to the volumetric equivalent, which is 1.45, that means you have to take the costs according to that chart I showed, and it'll be between, I think it's between 1 and 1.5, and it'll go into that category. Now you're thinking, okay, that's nice and everything, but how does that help me? Well, what it does is if you say your item only fits, that's like this is like, say your item weighs over the 1.6 kilograms in this box, then there's no point in trying to make the box smaller, because the volumetric equivalent is less than the actual weight. Then by making the box smaller, it's not going to save you any money in terms of shipping costs. This can also be important when you have you've basically broken down a box to make a different size, and let's say your volumetric equivalent is 1.4, and you could break it down by a third, but you can only save another 200 grams or so. It's not worth taking extra time. It's worth taking extra time, I find, to use less packing material, but I'm not going to start cutting pieces of the, like, say you break down the box and you make it much shorter. I'm not going to bother cutting off flaps and stuff like that, because it's actually not going to save you any money, because the reduced weight doesn't make a difference. It's the volumetric equivalent is still higher, and so I won't bother. And what I used to do is break down the box and then cut off pieces trying to get it as light as possible. But in Canada, the volumetric equivalent usually is where you're going to be spending your money, and it's usually not the weight. And like I said, I'm always about saving time where I can, and so I hope that helps. It just shows why shipping in Canada is so much, is because we don't have a good service for super light things. It's basically anything 750 grams or less is all the same cost, but that's just the way it is. So anyways, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please leave them below. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any comments or different thoughts, please let me know, because shipping, there's always more to learn. And honestly, shipping is one of our biggest costs. It's not the cost of the items. It's not even the fees. I always find shipping is the biggest cost. Anyways, thank you very much.